You can all join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. I was just sharing a story, which I'll share with everybody here. Hopefully it's educational to some extent. But 2003, when I started going to Shifeng Temple down the street, and there I was, just an angry, miserable, depressed kid, thinking I knew what I was doing. Anyone else relate to any of that? Nice. How's it working for you?
Oh, pretty shitty.
Say again?
Pretty shitty.
Pretty shitty. Yeah. I thought you said you appreciate it. I was like, but yeah, I hear you. Right. So that was me. And I remember going to this temple, and it's a very traditional, what I call cultural temple. It's a Taiwanese temple. It was my home for a few years, and very special to me. Still is. I still go there. And when I showed up, pretty much every day, and they would do on the weekends, especially, they would do really formal ritual chanting, bowing, reciting sutra, etc., meditation as well. And every time that you would do, they call prostrations, half bow and then full prostration. So just bowing constantly. And every time that I would bow, there was, without a doubt, a Taiwanese nun or elder Taiwanese. We called them the Taiwanese grandmas. And every single time, one of them would come over telling me how to do the prostration properly. All about opening the hands and closing the hands. And I'm miserable. I'm angry. I'm depressed. I just want to meditate, learn Buddhism, and be happy. And all they were doing was telling me how to open my hands. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't freaking want to know how to open my hands. I want to learn how to be at peace and be happy and all the other stuff that everybody shows up here is looking for. And then I eventually realized what I needed to do was learn how to open my hands. And that was it. And for me, it really was, that was the surrender. And if you're missing the point of the story, it really wasn't about the hands. But it was about thinking I knew what I was doing. I needed to learn something else. I came for some other reason. It was all the stories in my head about what I think or thought I needed and wanted. And in that moment, I wasn't getting what I needed and wanted. I just had someone telling me how to open my hands. And I'm like, why does this matter? And then ultimately, I realized the only thing that mattered was opening my hands properly. That's it. So don't be afraid to open your hands properly. Don't be afraid to drop the stories in your head that you're telling yourself about what you think you need, what you think you want, how other people should help you, what other people should do for you. Maybe the problem isn't other people. Just a possibility. Maybe the problem isn't how others are doing things. Maybe the problem is I was attached to what I thought was right and what I thought mattered. And if you look at the heart of Buddhist teachings, fundamental core Buddhism 101, we suffer, we experience dukkha, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction, is the first noble truth. The second thing he said is because of greed, anger, and ignorance. Greed, also known as craving, desire. And so forever it was this constant craving and desire to have things go a certain way. And once you surrender and you actually just trust in something else or someone else, and you drop the ego, you drop the story, because for most people, whatever we've been doing to this point hasn't worked so well. Not everybody. Maybe some of you in the room are perfectly happy and peaceful and everything's going great, and you were just really bored on a Tuesday night. That's always possible as well. But for most people who show up here, things haven't worked out so well so far, or they could go a little bit better. And so to me, the opening the hands to close this thought was simply an opportunity to reflect back on every time opening the hands. That was just the mirror telling me, drop the story, drop the ego, drop the pride, just shut up and follow, for me. And that was the most liberating experience of my life. Yeah. All right. So we'll start with a meditation practice. For those who are joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Feel free to say hello as you are. There's a chat box on your screen somewhere. A couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. You don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are on a cushion, often it helps. Slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, also just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders. Hands are on the knees or lap, whatever's comfortable. If you need to move, simply move. If you need to cough, simply cough. Just stay right where you are. Cough out loud, cover your mouth, and move on. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, you settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We'll start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, feel them fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, and no one else. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move, and most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This is not an easy practice, not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. And present moment is filled with conflict, chaos, difficulties, challenges. This is what we get every day. This practice is learning to be with life as it arises, not running from it, which is what many people spend much of their lives doing. And if you keep running, you're going to get tired. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in each moment. That's it. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction to the world around us, life gets simpler. But it does take time. It's not a 6-week course. It's not 3 months and all of a sudden you got it all figured out. It is a daily practice for the rest of your life. It's not a race. As I said earlier, it's holding up a mirror and reflecting back on your thoughts, your words, your actions, and understanding how your thoughts and your words, your actions create your reality. And that alone is just incredibly different from how many of us have spent the majority of our lives thinking that we need this person or this place or this thing or this way or this something to bring us happiness. And when you set all of that down and you drop the craving, you drop the desire, you drop the greed, and you just find gratitude and appreciation for all that exists, then it's a pretty nice way to live. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always really prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And to those who are joining virtually, again, welcome. Feel free to say hello as you are. The chat box somewhere on your screen. If you have any questions, you can put them there. I'll do my best to respond. And we'll use the rest of our brief time this evening for questions.
More like an observation, but I've been working in heights lately. I'm usually unsecured, moving around, and I've been like really enjoying work more than ever before.
Nice.
And I think I realized it today, like it hit me. And I'm like, oh my God, the days are going by so fast. And I think it's because I'm so concerned with not falling to my death that I'm not thinking of anything else in my life. Like I'm like completely present.
Yeah.
In the don't fall off.
Yeah. It's a big difference, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, please be careful and don't fall off. But
I'm like being careful.
yeah. Yeah.
It's like it consumes it and I can block everything else out.
But it's such, I mean, that view in that, I mean, that's a perfect example. But for all of us to look at, are we, you know, I've talked about this a lot for quite a while, but people often talk about their fear of death. And what often people are afraid of is actually to live, because there's so many things that they're afraid of. And so we often roam around in all this fear. What if this happens? What if that happens? How's this going to work? How's that going to work? And we're actually missing just what we're doing. Again, be safe, don't fall off. But yeah, beautiful. Thanks.
What's the significance of the bell?
The significance of the bell.
Yeah, if there is.
Yeah, I mean, it in one way, it's better than saying start and stop, you know? So every Buddhist culture has, it's kind of a broad way to look at it, but just kind of looking at it from like this 10,000 foot level, every Buddhist culture has different rituals, and they all practice different, often called forms or rituals. And so when you go to cultural temples, you know, pretty much, which is what exists, you'll see different ways of chanting and hitting the bells and playing the Dharma instruments and all kinds of stuff. And they vary from place to place. For me, in a Taiwanese Buddhist temple monastery life, which is Pure Land Buddhism, Chan, which is Zen Buddhism. So it's a mixture of Chan, which is Zen, and Pure Land Buddhism. That's what I was trained in and what I learned. And so the significance of the bells, specifically with the 3 bells, is the triple gem. So you're striking it 3 times to represent taking refuge in the Buddha, refuge in the Dharma, refuge in the Sangha. There are different variations of that depending upon what the chanting might be, but typically at the beginning of a meditation, at the end, that's what it is. It's also like Deer Park is one example, right? Thich Nhat Hanh's tradition, they call it the mindfulness bell. And they have a specific way of like, they call it inviting. Any Deer Parker people here, Thich Nhat Hanh devotees here, right? So they call it inviting the bell, where they'll actually like, I don't really know how to do it, but I'm pretty sure they do something like, they'll do like that. And then they strike it to like invite the bell. Other interesting thing is, so in Buddhism, there's what's known as Dharma protectors, right? And the idea is that all time, all space, all directions, beyond physical form, there is consciousness. And so there are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all time, all space, all directions. And so when you play the Dharma instruments and you're chanting the sutra, again, in cultural Buddhism, you're actually inviting all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas to join you, right? In formal practice. Now, when you get trained, right, to do this, you have to actually say a little, kind of like a little prayer at the beginning to let them know you're just practicing, because you don't want them to waste their energy and show up, right? I'm just teaching you how I was taught, like legit. And so what we actually also learned on, again, this was in Taiwan, but the way they would teach us was on like old school U-Bahn, like coffee containers. Almost like you're like learning to play the drums, you know? And so we would learn to play the bells on these coffee tins. I think it was actually Meredith was like, Sunday I do it differently. And so she was like super obsessed with all of that. And so I like showed her one time how to do it. And then we gave her for her birthday a little coffee tin. So it was kind of funny. Yeah, it's and also like very much kind of Zen Chan tradition. They'll call it a morning drum and bell. Taiwanese culture, Japanese culture, which would be the most I'm familiar with Buddhism, but they call it a morning drum and bell, and so they'll play like, this is called a wooden fish, mui they say in Mandarin, but it's called a wooden fish, and so you'll chant with it, and you'll play a combination of the drum and the wooden fish, which sounds more like a drum, and the bell. And there's a rhythm to the chanting. The chanting is just reciting sutra. So often when people go to like cultural temples and they hear chanting, they're like, oh, it sounds so cool. You know, like they're listening to music. But it's actual just formal chant, like they're reciting sutra. So if you don't speak Mandarin, it might sound like some cool whatever, but it's actually just the words of the Buddha, which is cool. But because it's in another language, it often seems different. And so the morning drum and bell would be at like, say, 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and you would like wake up, and then you would start hitting the drum and hitting the bell and like kind of begin the morning ritual. Yeah, there's also, again, very much a Zen kind of Chan way. There's a wooden board that's actually hit loud, and that's what that's basically like your alarm clock, you know, there's no snooze button. So, yeah. The bell, inviting the bell. Yeah. I like that term, by the way, inviting the bell, but it's just not my thing. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, what's your perspective or your take on, you know, we as people oftentimes provide support, social, emotional to others. How do we do that in such a fashion to where we, at the end of like, my example would be, I listened to a friend on the phone. She was having a rough night. And then I listened to her, she felt a lot better at the end. After the conversation was done, then I had a rough night.
Yeah.
But it didn't start out that way.
Yeah.
What's your take?
Did you call her back and yell at her and blame her? And like, then she could listen to you and you could explain why you were having a rough night because you sat and listened to her.
It was more like, okay, Omar, if you're feeling, actually made me think in the future, if I'm feeling so great, sometimes I actually make a conscious decision. Omar, don't call people.
Right.
Because I recognize, I'm like,
yeah,
I call and somebody's like in some type of way, and then I just absorb it, and I'm like, oh, maybe let's keep that good mood today.
Totally. So what you're really asking about is the practice of non-attachment in Buddhist teachings, right? Very critical, important piece, very difficult to put into play. But let me kind of explain it a little bit and maybe apply it to this. I'll start out by saying when I had a mentor when I was in college working at a group home, I'm pretty sure she was kind of like a closet Buddhist. You know, this is like 30 years ago. And at the university, not too many people were like, you know, publicly saying they were Buddhist. It was still like this kind of strange thing in a way. And she was working in a public setting. But I'm pretty sure reflecting back, she had prayer flags, but I didn't really know what they were back then. I remember her saying to me, Jeff, when you show up to work with these kids, they'd all, you know, they were teenagers, had been through tremendous trauma, abuse, et cetera. And she said, when you show up to work with these kids, give them all your love, all your attention, all your presence, like be with them wholeheartedly. And as soon as you walk out the door, leave them here. Meaning you can't carry them with you, because if you do, it will destroy you, right? Now, what you're asking about in relation, you know, kind of in connection with your friend or anybody else or any other time you've done that, which I'm guessing since you have a kind of defense mechanism in place that says if I'm in a good mood, I'm just not going to talk to anybody, right? So this is obviously a common, I'm guessing, theme with you. And what that often means, or at least what that tells me, is you are, you're carrying, you're internalizing all of that. And in some ways, that means you're just a really kind, empathetic person, right? Because you feel their pain, you listen to their pain, you're a good friend, you're supporting them. But there's a moment there where it's just gone too far and it's destroyed you. Does that make sense so far? Yeah. Again, I haven't answered anything. I've just rephrased your question. But the practice of non-attachment says, I'm gonna love them completely, and I'm gonna be there for them completely. But I'm not going to attach to their journey. Their pain, their suffering is their pain and their suffering. You don't have to take that on. You don't have to own that. You don't have to feel guilt or shame or discomfort. You can listen and support and love them, and also say, don't say this to them, but, you know, say to yourself, this is your mess. I say that to myself probably 1,000 times a day. Always have. Say again?
Sounds unkind the way you're putting it.
I think all you heard was this is your mess. You didn't hear anything I said before that.
Oh, I heard all everything you said. I'm telling you, it sounds unkind.
So if I listen to people all day long and I am 100% focused on their pain, their suffering, their difficulties, their challenges, and I'm taking it all in and I'm feeling it and I'm responding to them with the most incredible level of compassion and attempts to have wisdom that I can even imagine. And then in my mind, I also say that's their problem, not mine. How is that rude?
I'm not saying it's rude.
You said it was
Unkind.
Oh, unkind. Sorry. How is that unkind? I mean, since you cut me off and challenged me, I get to cut you off and challenge you. How is taking people's pain and suffering and supporting them and yet not making it my responsibility? How is that unkind?
So,
Okay. Yeah. I don't view it as unkind as all. Yeah. Yeah. I see about 100 people all day long, every single day.
Well, this is not about you. I just meant in general.
Oh, no, it actually is about me because you responded to me and said sounds unkind. So now I'm challenging you.
You can take it out.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant. And I'm saying you're giving him advice and I'm questioning.
Yeah.
It sounds unkind.
Okay, so now you're backpedaling a little bit. You see how I'm doing this? I'm actually mirroring what I'm going to do because when this is done, that's your stuff, not mine. So I'm trying to reflect on how is this unkind? So back to your question, Omar, right? Yeah. So you're fully present with your friend. That's their mess. It's not yours. When you have pain and suffering and you're struggling and you turn to a friend, right? And they support you and they listen to you. Can they fix your mess?
Not necessarily.
But they can listen to you. They can support you. They can be there for you, right? And then when you hang up the phone, is there anything they can now do for Omar, or is Omar on his own?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the harsh reality. Nobody can fix my mess. Nobody. People could listen to me. They could support me. They could give me advice, right? But at the end of the day, my mess is my mess. That's just reality. To me, that's the harsh reality. See, Buddhist teachings doesn't make things easier. People want Buddhist practice to like solve all your problems and give you a gentle hug. What's the first thing the Buddha said? Life is filled with what? Dukkha, suffering, discomfort, angst. And everybody wants to miss that. And they want to be this gentle, like, oh, let's just hug everybody and you're going to be fine, right? The first thing is life is filled with suffering. Explore why you're suffering and realize nobody else can take away your suffering. Just like nobody else can give you joy. We respond to things with joy. We respond to things with suffering. So when you find yourself in situations where you have listened to them, because what you don't, I don't want to tell you what you do and don't want to do. What I was going to say is what you don't want to do is stop being there for people. Like my guess is you enjoy being there for people.
Usually.
If it doesn't destroy you. If it didn't destroy you, would you enjoy being there for people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To a higher degree.
Yeah, to a higher degree. So the practice of understanding that there's a separation. This is non-attachment. Non-attachment is ultimate love. Love is about understanding to the best of your ability where they're at, but not attaching to their journey. And that's it. It is loving them for who and how they are and knowing that they have their mess and you have yours. You know, you're not ignoring them.
That makes sense. It kind of makes me think I used to practice this a little bit more often, but putting that like mental distance a little bit more,
Yeah.
saying like, okay, this is on that, or like,
Yeah. And again, I'm not suggesting that you, when you're done talking with them, I just want to clarify this for anybody who didn't get it. I'm not suggesting that you, at the end of the phone call, be like, yo, I'm glad I listened to you, but now you're on your own, right? What I'm saying is you're asking how to do it. What I'm suggesting is for you yourself, when you hang up the phone, to realize you've done all you could do. You've been the best friend you could be. You've listened to all their problems. You've given them advice. But then when you hang up the phone, it's not your problem. And you're internalizing it and making it your problem, which is what's causing you pain and suffering, which is causing you to withdraw and put up a wall, which, you know, be there for people as much as you can. They need you, you know? Yeah. What else? Yeah.
The analogy that comes to mind as you're talking is kind of like if I was walking down the street and I saw a poor person and I said, oh, you know what? I need to give away all my money and my home.
Right.
That's kind of the equivalent of what I heard you saying. Like, what good is that going to do?
I'm not following you, but yeah, okay. Explain. Say that again. Say it a different way. Sounds great. I'm just not following you.
So it's like to have empathy for a person doesn't mean you give away everything you have.
Oh, understood. Right.
You need to be in their shoes.
Right.
So I don't need to give away all my money and my home to have empathy for someone who doesn't
Correct. I thought you said that I was suggesting you give away all your stuff to them. Yeah. Yeah.
What he was saying was it's kind of the equivalent of like he's giving away everything.
Right.
And then he feels terrible.
Yeah. There's a lot of that in a similar, and yeah, that's a great example. In a similar way, this has come up a lot recently with everything that's going on in the world today, and everything is the mess that it is. And often people, more so than I've ever seen in 20 years around this place, more so people are showing up with this like helpless feeling. I just see people feeling more helpless than I've ever seen in 20 years, truly. And I get that because, there are starving children all over the world. There's horrible things going on all over the world. And us in this moment right now on the like global scale may feel helpless because maybe maybe we don't have the ability to help things to the level that we would want. So where can we help? What can we do? Maybe we can't feed all the starving children in the world, but 5 miles from here, there's 10,000 people sleeping on the streets downtown San Diego. Maybe we can help them. Maybe we can't end every horrific, tragic event that's going on globally in the world right now. Maybe your actions will not, and we don't talk politics, we don't talk religion, but I'll say this anyways. Maybe your actions now, past, present, or future will not end a war, for example. But maybe there's a war going on in your life somewhere with a family member, with a relationship partner, with a stranger on the street that you encounter, with the person in traffic that just cut you off, which means absolutely nothing, but now you're at war with the person in traffic, right? So while we can't maybe end a war, where are there battles? Because we all have battles in our lives. So it's, to me, one way of feeling helpless and then looking at what can I help? What can I change? What can I bring into the world? Again, core teachings of the Buddhist teachings. Second noble truth, greed, anger, ignorance, or craving, desire. So we practice generosity, compassion, and wisdom to overcome suffering. So how can you practice generosity, compassion, and wisdom in the challenges and difficulties you're having in your life? Will that save the planet? No. But will it make a difference in those immediate relationships? Absolutely. And then maybe we won't feel so helpless, What else?
Once before you mentioned the difference between unattachment and detachment. Can you repeat that again for me?
Yeah. So the question was, once before I mentioned the difference between unattachment and detachment. I love how you asked that because those are actually the two words that I say don't use, right? So often when people ask about non-attachment, they'll use the words detached or unattached. And again, for me, and I'm talking just English language, when that teaching gets translated into detached or unattached, it sounds like a cutting off of, I always say the word severing, like we're going to cut it off, we're going to sever it, we're going to end it. And that's not love. That's like chopping something off, where non-attachment means we're going to not attach onto something, which is very different from cutting something off. Ultimately, it's the same thing. You have something here and something here, right? So I'm not going to attach to what's over here. Now, I'm also not going to cut it off and get rid of it. Where non-attachment is actually loving what is here, every person, place, and thing, but not expecting anything from them. I mean, you ever loved somebody and had like a lot of expectations? Ever held lots of, burdens over their head? Once or twice, back in 1982, remember? Yeah. So non-attachment is loving without strings attached, without expectations, without control, ultimately. And that's the thing that so many people struggle with is their desire to try to control people and places and things in their life. Yeah. Does that help? Yeah.
I've heard you say that 20 times, and it's just like right now. Oh, shit.
Takes a while.
It just fucking,
Yeah. I heard the wow. We all heard the wow. Yeah. Yeah. They say the Buddha taught the same thing 84,000 different ways. because there's so many different types of people and we respond to things differently. And sometimes, you know, it can take years and sometimes it's like instant. There's a question here. Could you explain Dharma and Sangha a bit? I've heard of them, but not much of Sangha. Thank you for hosting. Always refreshing and growing when I stop in. Yeah, for sure. So I referenced earlier the triple gem, the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And so the first one, just to touch on it as well, since you're asking about Dharma, Sangha, is the Buddha. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, first look at what does the word refuge mean, right? So when we take refuge in something, what does refuge mean? Just kind of shout out some words. Shelter, what else? Safety, comfort. Say again? Refuge. Home. So all those things, whatever refuge is to you, right? It's first important to understand what that word means to you. Then we say, okay, well, what am I finding safety, comfort, protection, home in? The first one is the Buddha. Now, often people think like, well, is the Buddha then going to save me? The Buddha died 2,500 years ago, right? If you're waiting for the Buddha to save you, you're going to be waiting a very long time and really end up just disappointed, right? What we're taking refuge in when we take refuge in the Buddha is bodhicitta, or Buddha nature. The idea that the Buddha was just a human, lived 500 years before Christ. He figured out how to end his suffering. To me, that's really wonderful that a human being figured out how to end his suffering. What that says to me as a practitioner is, if some other dude could figure this stuff out, then why can't I figure out how to end my suffering? And for me as a practitioner, very realistically, I don't wake up each day thinking like, is today the day my suffering is going to end, right? My suffering's not ending anytime soon. I think, can I suffer less today than I did yesterday? To me, that's, for me, a very relevant practice. Can I suffer less today than I did yesterday? Can I understand the causes of my suffering today more so than I did yesterday? So it's a constant recognition of why we suffer and can we do it less. So we're taking refuge in the idea that we too can end our suffering. Bodhicitta, Buddha nature. The second one is the Dharma. So the Dharma ultimately is the teachings of the Buddha. You know, all the loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the 6 Paramitas. Like you can just Google Buddhism 101, all that stuff. You know, the suffering, the cause, the ending, and the path, the Eightfold Path, the correct views, thoughts, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration. That's it. Those are the teachings of the Buddha. That is the Dharma. So we find safety, comfort, protection, that if we practice generosity, compassion, and wisdom, then we'll hopefully suffer less, right? And the third one is the Sangha. This is the community. At the time of the Buddha, it was the monks that came together, and then they added the nuns, and then the Sangha grew from there. And, you know, fast forward to today, pretty much a group of people getting together in community, looking at meditation, Buddhist practice, discussing things like this. This is the Sangha. This is community. And, you know, often people, I think, overlook the importance of Sangha. You know, very often people kind of, you know, sure, there's, okay, I can end my suffering, and there's a lot of books, right? There's a lot of websites, a lot of whatever that I can learn from. But I'm telling you, man, without community to practice together, to learn from each other, to challenge each other, to question each other, to hold each other accountable, to show up for each other, like that's the key right there. I believe it was Thich Nhat Hanh who would teach before he passed. One of his teachings was that for a while now, actually, he would teach this before he passed, but he would say kind of his expression, I believe, was that like the future Buddha was the Sangha. What he was saying was that in essence, it's not about a technical Buddhist teachings, Maitreya, there's a future Buddha in some other realm that's going to be born and share the Dharma. But just so you, in case you were worried that was never going to happen, it's going to happen. But what Thich Nhat Hanh was saying in essence was that the Sangha, the community, is really the heart of Buddhist teachings. And so, you know, it's important not to overlook, you know, there's Sanghas everywhere. I mean, San Diego has there's like 50 Buddhist temples within a 10-mile radius of here. I'm not even kidding you. You can just Google Buddhist temple San Diego near me, and like, boom, there's so many of them. You know, and I always encourage people, go experience all of them, all the different cultural temples. They're really beautiful. So hope that helps. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the triple gem it's often referred to in Buddhist practice. Anything else? We'll do one more before we close.
On the top of Buddha.
Who is the Amitabha Buddha? So that guy. You want more than that? It's a card right there. So Amitabha Buddha, I'll sum this up briefly, kind of along the lines I was talking about earlier. You have 2,500 years of Buddhist teachings. You have different, you have Theravada Buddhism, you have Mahayana Buddhism, you have Tibetan Buddhism, Vajrayana. So you have multiple schools of Buddhism. Every time Buddhism goes into a new culture, it kind of meshes with that local culture. And so you get a lot of, meshing of Buddhism with local culture. And so within each Buddhist tradition, they have various Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and things like that. Amitabha Buddha, his name literally means infinite life or boundless light. And there is in specifically Taiwanese Buddhism, especially Japanese Buddhism, Namo Amida Butsu, same thing. Pure Land Buddhism, there is Amitabha's Pure Land. And Amitabha had 48 great vows that he made. And the practice in Pure Land Buddhism, for example, which it is Amitabha's Pure Land, is that all you would do is recite the Buddha's name, meditate, and follow precepts. That's it. Three things. Meditate, recite the Buddha's name, and follow precepts. And you will be, when you die, you'll be reborn into Amitabha's Pure Land, where you are free from suffering. It is like what we refer to as a heaven. And for what I call cultural Buddhists, Taiwanese Buddhists, for example, Japanese Buddhists, it's as devout faith-based belief as any other Western faith. 100%. It is devotional. It is truly, and I've done like Amitabha chanting retreats where all you're doing for 7 days straight is reciting Namo Omitofo, reciting the Buddha's name for 7 days straight from morning till night. You just break for 20 minutes when you eat. You don't recite when you eat, but then as soon as you're done and you're all leaving, you start reciting the Buddha's name again. And it is nonstop 24/7. So Buddhists from those cultures and that practice, Shifang Temple right down the street, that's it, man. The belief is they are going to be reborn into Amitabha's Pure Land. And when you transfer merit, you are also, again, in this belief, in tradition of Buddhism, you're also transferring merit for others to be reborn into Amitabha's Pure Land where there is no suffering. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm going to join palms. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. All right, before y'all head out, our wonderful host, Star, has our announcements for us tonight. And my apologies, my friend, if you took me attacking you offensively. It was not my intention. But when I feel challenged, I will definitely push back. So, yeah, my apologies. Yeah, go ahead, Star.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm tonight's host, Star. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 19 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who leave are not nuns, monks, gurus, or teachers and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. We have silent meditation Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and bring it back whenever you are done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay to close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you all again.
Thank you, Star. You nailed it.